Good morning, Pastor Ron Jetter, Immanuel Lutheran Church, Saturday the 2nd of January, 2021. Oh, how I love saying 2021, don't you? I don't think we'll get tired of that for a while. I spent part of yesterday sending little pictures back and forth with my brother through our texting feature on the phone. And one of them, I have this thing called a Bitmoji, which is a caricature or cartoon version of me carrying out a sack of garbage that stinks labeled 2020, and in the next one with a big banner that says 2021. That's pretty well describes the feelings of most of the people that I've been talking with or texting with. Thank goodness for things like Skype and iPads and computers. We did a craft project with the grandkids yesterday afternoon. I hope you're finding ways to not be isolated. But part of what some of you have come to rely on is some spiritual, intellectual food along the way as well. And so I'm going to start a new thing today, the Book of Leviticus, known as the Book of the Law of Moses. Now, Moses in Exodus is the lawgiver, but Leviticus is the law. It is the book of law. It's Moses' work. He may have penned some of it, even though we know it's been edited, reorganized, redacted along the way. Nonetheless, the conversations with God are with Moses alone. So without Moses' input into at least the oral tradition, this book would not exist, which is why it's known as Moses' law book. I'm relying, too, on biblical scholar Jeffrey Krantz for some of the comments as I look at the book and look at the sections of the book. And there's three major sections. But Krantz starts off by saying there's one theme that can sum it up, and it comes from Leviticus chapter 20. Essentially, Israel, be as holy as I am holy. And so Leviticus is the purity code for coexisting with God. We know that they have to learn to coexist or conquer the tribes that are in the land of Canaan. They had pushed aside some of those tribes. They had worked with some of those tribes during Abraham's time. But when Joseph and then the rest of the family ends up in Egypt, there's now 4 centuries in which the land is re-inhabited by its former inhabitants. And Israel, the 12 tribes plus the Levites, now have to reinsert themselves into the land of Israel, that we would call Israel today, the land of Canaan at that time, because Canaanite tribes inhabited it, and had for centuries. It was theirs. They didn't intend to just say, oh, you bet, we'll live in refugee camps. Here you go, it's your land. So Israel has to learn how to be a cohesive people, able to be in every way superior to their enemy, or they're not going to be able to conquer their enemy. They don't have enough ability as mere humans. They need God's intervention to do it, and God has a price. You want me to be your God? I want you to be my people. And so Leviticus 20 says this, thus you are to me to be holy, for I, the Lord, am holy. I have set you apart from the other peoples to be mine. Thus you are to be to me holy, for I, the Lord, am holy. I have set you apart from the peoples to be mine. All the nations of Canaan will know that the Israelites have arrived back home. They intend to take it, they intend to stay, and that they have a God who doesn't take no for an answer. Krantz goes on to lay out this kind of path to God. And he says this, the closer a mortal gets to God, the more ritualistically pure they have to be if they want to survive. Remember in Exodus, in those final chapters, God said, I'm going to send a pillar of cloud ahead of you. I don't even want to walk among you right now. I am just so frustrated with you and you are so ritually, morally, legally unfit to be anywhere near me. So God is pure, holy, other. And then God has ordered them to create a place for God's presence, the tabernacle. And then God has ordained that there will be those who are allowed to serve the tabernacle, the priests. And then there are those whom the priests guide, the nation of Israel. And then that category called everyone else. Everyone who's not from the nation of Israel, everyone who's not one of the chosen people. That's basically the population of the world other than Israel. They are unclean, that's one word, or profane, or common. Profane doesn't mean, well, we often think of profanity as using bad words, but that's not what profane means. Profane is the opposite of holy. Profane means it's ordinary, everyday. For instance, Jews will have several sets of dishes, one that they use only for the Passover, one that they will use for, this is pots and pans too, as well as servings that they'll use for other high holy times and festivals, and then the everyday dishes, what they would call the common or the profane dishes. We have a set of Christmas, this is holiday dishes that have holly and little berries on them, green and red on white plates, and we bring them out for several weeks and then put them away again. This week, I guess they'll go back and the profane dishes will come out. In order to approach God, the profane has to be set aside. Israel itself is to not be profane, not be common. They must be set aside, holy, pure, purer than everyone else, every other people and race and tribe and nation. The priests must be holier than the Israelites, than the 12 geographical tribes. The Levites then have to be a step above that. And then the tabernacle, in order to enter the tabernacle, one has to be even purer, because that's one step below God. One cannot survive walking alongside God without being pure. So it's not just about the Israelites surviving the conquest of the land of Canaan. It's surviving being in a relationship with God. Wow. How does one survive being in a relationship with God? Well, and that begs the question, if it's that hard, why would one want to be in a relationship with God? Well, and again, there is this fact that God has freed them and has given them this land, and there it is. Okay, you don't want me to be your God? Go ahead, take the land on your own. And the Canaanites will gradually chip away at your numbers, and you will be a memory that is blotted out within a few generations, and you will be slaves, and there will be no people of God. Your choice. Tough choice. A God whose rules are harsh, and a future as God's people. Or, I've got a very playful puppy today, or, like everybody else, you'll be among the profane. Nothing to set you aside. No special protections. No special relationship with God. No special requirements. Your choice. We have the same choice today. God to be God's people, to call ourselves a congregation of the people who worship God, is a choice, and it shouldn't just be an easy choice. It should be a choice that we make over and over very soberly. And on the 6th of January, sundown of the 5th actually, in just a couple of days, we will celebrate in whatever way in our own homes the Epiphany. That's the recalling of the star appearing above Bethlehem. And that star then guides the Magi. Remember, the Magi are not part of the Christmas story. They are really part of the Epiphany story. Somewhere marketers said, you know, we can't just drag this thing out. Let's bring the Magi. How many Magi? Oh, I don't know. Probably dozens. If there were Magi all over the East, they could have been dozens of them. Why did we limit it to 3? Well, somewhere it says in the Bible, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Okay, so how about we say that one Magi brought gold, one brought myrrh, and one brought frankincense. And if you're a fan of Garrison Keillor, of course, you know that myrrh is a hamburger hot dish. And the last thing his wife said when he went out the door is, be sure and bring the dish back. But she knew that they would be hungry, because you always want to send food when there's been an event like a birth or a death. Love Garrison Keillor's brand of humor. Well, that's the overview. Tomorrow then, church is 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Our adult class starts again for 5 weeks. And then on Monday, we will look at this first major section of the Book of Leviticus, the rules for how they are to make offerings. It's not just make offerings, but how. That's very specific.